Hello everyone, today I have Megann Coleman as my guest. Megann is marketing coordinator at Root3 Labs. Company creates all sorts of different, sometimes very crazy prototypes. I really wanted to talk to Megann as marketing for such an unusual and complex industry is a real and interesting story.
System shut down.
Megann, hello. Thank you so much for coming to this podcast. Sometimes I will be looking down as my monitor is here and the camera is positioned separately, high up. So, how has the marketing year been so far?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Thank you for having me on. It's really exciting. So far, 2025 has really kicked off with a bang for us. So we're just like diving right in, getting stuff prepped for the whole year. So it's been a busy couple of weeks already.
So, Megan, I saw your profile on LinkedIn and checked that you are part of video production world. What kind of videos did you specialize in?
So yeah, before I got into marketing, I was doing video. I went to school for film production.
Wow.
So we got a really, I would say, broad education. So I've done a little bit of everything. I've done some live studio work with like live cameras and things like
Mhm.
that. I've done a couple of like local news packages on like local businesses. And I've done a few like short experimental fictional like indie type stuff with friends. So I've done
Mhm.
a little bit of everything before I found myself here.
Was it during your film school years or while working at a video production job?
I did about 4 years at
Uh-huh.
film school, and then when I got out of school, I was just kind of working odd jobs and doing film basically for fun
Uh-huh.
with friends, for a few years while I was just working to get by, and then,
Hmm.
after COVID, I would say 2022 is when I got into the marketing world.
Did you study marketing before your current job?
I did a little bit of
Uh-huh.
social media work for a veterinary clinic that I
Wow.
worked
Mhm.
at. So that's kind of my first foray into helping them build up like their social media
Mhm.
presence. Yeah, that's where I started.
Have you worked on any marketing projects before your current job?
No, actually, it's all really new to me. So this
Mhm.
is my first like official marketing role is here at Root3 Labs. Yeah.
So why did you decide to change your specialty and start a career in marketing, especially in the complex tech industry?
So at the time, I had been working, like I said, odd jobs like in finance, in admin, and I was really, really looking to get into the tech industry. I just thought it was way more interesting than what I was currently doing, a lot more room for creativity and flexibility, which was really what I wanted. So I was looking to get into the door really
Mhm.
anywhere in the tech industry. And then I came across Root3 Labs, who was looking for they started out looking for an assistant, and then when I started talking with them,
Mhm.
they saw the skill set that I had and asked if I would want to come in and sort of start building them up a bigger marketing presence. And I thought Root3 Labs really drew me in because they had, all those things, creativity and flexibility and interesting stuff, different stuff happening all the time. So
Mhm.
that was really exciting for me. I wanted to come into that.
Could you share any advice on landing a first job in tech right after graduation?
Yeah, I would say my biggest piece of advice would be to look in unconventional places because I've helped out with a lot of our recruiting efforts. So I see a lot of like interns come through and a lot of hopeful interns.
Mhm.
And I think that's a great path for people who are interested in going into marketing is to start out with an internship. But I wouldn't say don't go for the really big companies that everyone's applying to because it's highly competitive.
Hmm.
Obviously, you might get through, but I would say you might have a better chance, like, look for those small, scrappy companies,
Mhm.
maybe local companies. If they have a presence online that you think you could make better, like, make
Mhm.
that case to them, and I think that that can go a long way, definitely.
Could you talk a little about Root3 Labs? What do they do?
Yes. So, Root3 Labs is a device engineering and product development consulting firm. So, what that means is that they help manufacturers or doctors, researchers, anyone with an idea for a device, or maybe you even have a design already. We can take that and turn that into a functional prototype for you, get it in your hands so that you can take that on for testing. You could take it on to present to, investors for your next phase of investment. So we do a lot of prototyping, we do design consulting, we do design for manufacturing. So helping someone figure out just exactly how this thing needs to be made so that you could manufacture it on a larger scale cost effectively.
And what is your role there?
So I pretty much handle everything that has to do with Root3 Labs' digital public facing footprint. So that would include managing social media, posting, creating content, distributing that content. I review the analytics, I run and create the ads, review the metrics on those
Mhm.
ads. I manage our email newsletter.
Uh-huh.
We send out, email campaigns, things like that. And that also includes in-person events. So we do a few in-person events a year. I'll attend, make sure our booth is set up and looks
Uh-huh.
nice, things like that. So it's a wide range of stuff that I handle.
It's incredibly interesting because every month brings new project and tasks, and each unique in its own way. You mentioned various aspects of marketing, posts, emails, digital ads. Which of these activities do you focus on the most?
Yeah, I would say our main focus right now has been in building brand awareness.
Mhm.
So we're really focused on our socials, particularly LinkedIn. That's been like our biggest return on interest, engagement, new clients.
Mhm.
So we're really working on getting ourselves out there on LinkedIn, get more followers, push
Mhm.
that organic and that paid content. I would say that's our biggest pillar right now, and
Mhm.
also paid ads in general, just
Uh-huh.
trying to build that reach.
Building trust in B2B segment is quite challenging, especially when dealing with expensive and complex engineering projects. What instruments do you use to establish this trust? For instance, how do you use LinkedIn or targeted messaging?
Yeah, that's a great point, and that's something we talk about a lot is how to get clients to trust us, to know that we can deliver what they need. So the important thing to me is to prove it, right? Just show it, right? Show, don't tell. So we're trying to use our real examples, real past clients, so that we can show that we can
Mhm.
do what we say we can do. So we do that with things like client testimonials are a big one, reviews, and then also case studies, most definitely,
Mhm.
are very important pieces for building trust for us.
Speaking of targeting, let's discuss LinkedIn ads. How do you approach creating campaigns there? For instance, what kind of sales funnel do you typically use?
Yeah, it's interesting. We are definitely still in the experimentation phase of building all those things out. I would say we've seen the most success with targeted reach. So
Mhm.
target by industry, target by title,
Uh-huh.
so that we can narrow it down to the people that we know need our services and
Mm.
also have the ability to advocate for us within their larger system. So, for example, we're not necessarily targeting a CEO.
Mhm.
We would more rather target maybe like a head of R&D
Mm.
or a project manager lead, something like that. A person who would be able to say, yes, we need that outsourced engineering because they know they're in the
Uh-huh.
project and they know that they need the help. Whereas the CEO is a little, I think, outside of the internal discussion some of the time.
So the first step is to understand your audience segment. You mentioned technical specialization, project management, and so on. But with so many project cases, there are numerous business segments to consider. How do you select the right segments and businesses to target with the ads?
Yeah, so we'll end up separating out some of our content and our funnels. So some things might be more targeted, for example, to like
Mhm.
an aerospace contracted industry. We might use different messaging, different images, things like that, versus medical device industry.
Mhm.
We have, certain messaging and certain case studies that we would push to that audience instead. But I would say more generally, we will try to niche down in those circumstances, but I do like to speak more generally to essentially pain points, which
Uh-huh.
I find are universal across our segments. So
Mhm.
things like getting to market quickly and before everybody else. Everybody can agree on that, right?
Uh-huh.
Wanting to save money, wanting to reduce risks.
Mhm.
These are things that are universal. So when I put together a lot of our content, we're less so focused on the specific of like a medical device and more so focused on we can get you this medical device through regulatory hurdles and get you to a good position maybe faster than the other
Mhm.
guys. So that's what we try to focus on.
You also mentioned email marketing. Is it aimed at your clients for upselling, or is it focused on generating new leads?
Yeah, so with email marketing, we have a monthly newsletter. So that's essentially just like a lead generator for us,
Mhm.
trying to get people to subscribe and then so that they're in our CRM. And then we have other drip campaigns set up. So if we meet a new client or
Mhm.
someone new signs up for the newsletter,
Mhm.
they'll get automatically put into a funnel where they get sent maybe like one email a week, two emails a week, something like that for a few months to kind of give them like, here's a little bit about us. And we kind of drip out the content to
Mhm.
hopefully bring them further down that funnel.
One more question about LinkedIn campaign. This topic really interests me. Once you've launched a campaign and tested the content, what is the next step in the marketing funnel?
That's one thing we're also working on dialing in this year is like a, I don't know what you call it, like a very structured sort of
Mhm.
funnel and lead system. Right now, I would say it's a little less defined. We're
Mhm.
working on getting like tags for things to get everyone segmented really well. But right now, it works out in a nice way. I call it like the web. So everything that we have is connected to everything else, right? If you sign up for the newsletter,
Mhm.
you will also get linked to our social media. If you're on the
Mhm.
social media, you'll get linked to a blog. So we have all of these different things to keep people in our system, keep them clicking, and keep them, interested, hopefully coming back for more.
So, as I understand, the next step is getting an email of your potential client to put them on email sequences.
Yes, definitely. And we're working on, like I said, adding in like scoring methodology. So as they get into our email flow system, if they're a person who's clicking a lot of links, they're going
Mhm.
to get a higher score. And that
Wow.
puts them
Uh-huh.
higher up on my list that our salesperson can
Uh-huh.
then potentially do like a cold outreach if they're like a
Wow.
really high score, something like that.
So, if you see in your dashboard that so this person clicks a lot, so through your website, through newsletters, your sales manager get a notification to call them. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
Wow.
So in our content manager
Uh-huh.
system, each person that ends up in there will end up with a score,
Mhm.
right? And in any activity they do increases that score to show us that they're more and more and more interested. So we're more likely to reach out to them directly.
Which apps, maybe which services do you use to track?
You can use Google Tag Manager, has some nice ways to set that up on your actual website. So you can get scoring metrics based on like how long are they
Mhm.
reading a blog or something like that. And then you can also set up, we use Zoho for our email.
Uh-huh.
So they have scoring systems set up in there where it's like if this person clicks this opens your email, they get a few points. If they click a link in the email, they get a few more points, so on.
What advice can you give regarding budgeting for LinkedIn campaigns?
I would say the way that we've found to like a budget that works is really just experimenting. Like
Mhm.
we start small. We started just with boosting posts. So just boosting an individual post on LinkedIn as opposed to running a whole campaign for
Uh-huh.
something. And in that case, you don't have to spend as much and you can see if you're going to get return on that. So we boosted a few of our best performing organic posts to see what kind of returns we would get for just a few $100s per post.
Mhm.
And then we took that and were able to sort of do the math and be like, I think if we do, this, maybe let's go up to 1,000 as opposed to a
Mhm.
100. I think we'll get X returns and it'll
Uh-huh.
be worth it. So we're definitely still in an experimentation phase. And this year is going to be our biggest paid ad push. So we're going to be doing a lot of experimenting. One way I've looked into figuring out the budgets is to basically give yourself like an A, B, and C budget. This is a way for me to also sell it to my boss. It's like, well, this is my, plan A, my dream
Uh-huh.
plan, and it would cost, the biggest amount. And if he signs off on it, great. But if he's like, I don't know, I'm nervous about spending that much, then
Mhm.
I have a plan B, that spends less. And I even have a plan C that is like my most pared down version, just depending where we're at.
You tested a lot of campaigns, targeting, post promo, and which conversion rate is okay for your industry, for your background?
I would say so our emails get a much higher conversion rate than our
Uh-huh.
ads have. I would say I think the industry standard for like email open rates is around 10%. We tend to see around 30% open rates on our emails, which love that. If I could carry that over into click through on paid ads, that would be great. To my understanding, I think 3 to 5% is like really, really good on a paid ad. We're right now around like a 1% ROI, which yeah, I'd like it to be higher, obviously, but I'll take it. We're growing.
At Lava Media, our video marketing agency, we run targeted campaigns and Google Ads. It's easy to achieve 10% conversion rate, but you might encounter spam or non-target clients. When we talk about your target audience, achieving a 2% click rate is really challenging.
Especially when you're targeting down so narrow, yes, your returns are gonna be much smaller.
Can you share your experience in building cases for the defense and medical industries? Because it's very complex industries and there are a lot of NDA in these industries, I
Mm.
guess, I believe. So how it's possible to win new clients in medical industries and defense industries, not showing your relevant past cases?
This was a big learning curve for me as well, and a surprising aspect of the job to me. It comes up way more often than you think, and not only around like sensitive defense work. Also comes up with just kind of almost any project to a certain degree. Because if you think about it, a lot of our work takes place in the really early stages of product design. We're making an initial design or making like a very first prototype. And that information can be very sensitive to the owner of that technology, especially
Sure.
when we're talking about things like your position in the market and competitors. If you have some new technology, you want to keep that under wraps.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So it did take a bit of a mindset shift for me when trying to tell these stories. I think coming from that film background, I was focused a lot on sort of a linear mode of storytelling. Like, this is how we did the project from start to finish. But I've come to realize that I don't think that's the most important thing that we want to communicate to a
Mhm.
potential client that's reading about our work. It's more so that we want them to walk away understanding that we helped a client reach their goals
Mhm.
or help them meet a tight deadline, whatever the crux of what we did for them was. So being able to focus the content that way, as opposed to getting into the weeds of all the technicals, has really helped with being able to talk about, sensitive
Mhm.
possible work and things like that without divulging, any secrets. Of course, there are still cases where I completely can't talk about anything, show anything.
Uh-huh.
We have always had a few projects like that.
Is there any specific pain points, for example, in medical industries or defense industries?
One big thing that's unique in the medical field is certainly the regulatory hurdles. So, a lot of times, our clients will be interested in going forward to sort of first round clinical testing, and that will require, they need FDA approvals, they need to go through like this whole review process. And to get through that smoothly, it's very important to have your
Yeah,
documentation very well done, to FDA standards and everything like that. We're able to help out because we know, what the FDA is looking for in a lot of cases. So we're able to help keep clients organized that way. That's a unique one, definitely.
your team is like consultant for medical clients because you know the rules of this industry, the regulation
Mhm.
aspects, so you can help new clients to avoid some mistakes.
Yes, absolutely.
Well,
So I wouldn't advertise us as being like FDA experts or anything, but we've certainly been around the industry for long enough that we're able to kind of set people up for success in that way.
It's a very interesting point here because it's not obvious that you are more than just a production company. You can also act as a consultant.
Yeah, and that's a big part that our CEO wants more people to know about as well. So we're trying to kind of push that in our messaging. Like we do have something we call a design review.
Mhm,
So if somebody has products that they've already gotten to a prototype, but
mhm.
like something isn't quite working or they want it to be better, we have a whole thing where you can just bring it to us. We'll
Uh-huh.
sit down with a couple of our engineers and we will go all the way through the full
Well,
design, see what we can come up with that might be our recommended fixes and kind of go from there. So yeah, consulting is a great way to put that.
is it also important for defensive industry to make an effective design, or is there another pain points?
I would say in the defense industry, their biggest pain point is probably timing. A lot of our defense projects come from the government or government contractors. So they're working on a totally different time and budget scale than the private sector. They're most interested in good results. So with our
Mhm,
defense work, we spend a lot of time on testing and validation. I think that's a lot more important to them because they want it to work and they want it to be reliable. A lot of our defense work will end up going a lot longer than some of our other contracts,
mhm.
just because they do want to do such detailed and rigorous testing.
You've talked about effective storytelling that you learned from the film industry. What tips can you share for crafting compelling stories in a complex industry?
Yeah, that's kind of like the big question, I think. So, one point I'll say is that I keep all of our writing at an eighth grade reading level. I think that's pretty standard advice across the industry, but they say that that's the like national average reading level. And it's also better for readability, right? Especially when we're talking about something so technical in the engineering field, people's eyes are going to glaze over when you start talking about the very, very nitty gritty details. So I try to keep things on a higher level, more so talking about why we did something in terms of like it saved money, it saved time, it was a better
Mhm,
material, as opposed to the nitty gritty of like this material was 0.5 times more effective. You could get really into it.
uh-huh.
So that's my advice is try not to get too into the weeds of what you're writing about, especially in a technical field. And I guess as for storytelling, it is a story. Think of it like you're telling a story. That's the important thing is you want to know, I guess, almost like what's the point of what you're writing about? What are you trying to say? And that's going to really inform the structure and the content of what you're writing.
How will you distribute these posts? Only LinkedIn or maybe another platforms, for example, Reddit?
So we try to host everything on the website. So, we own the website. That's our owned platform. So that's where we want things to originate from. So if we have like a full blog or a case study, it'll get hosted there. We'll then take that piece of content and chop it up into like smaller bite-sized pieces with different formats for different channels. So maybe an Instagram reel will go up. Maybe we'll have like 5 LinkedIn posts that
Mhm.
have to do with this topic. And typically, we'll also include bits of pieces of it in our newsletter as well. So, all the places where we know people are coming in from, we're trying to send them back to the website with that blog content.
Do you have any help with copywriting?
Yes, I get a lot of help. My preferred way of like writing a new blog or a case study is to go to the subject matter expert first. So for me, that's going to be the engineer, the project manager, whoever it is. And I'll sit with them and do an interview that I record. So I'll take notes and I'll have a recording that I can look back at. And then I'll also ask them to compile their own notes for me on the project with, photos that they think are relevant. So this way I'm able to tailor our interview with what I need to know. and I also get information that they think is the most pertinent. And then I'm able to sift all that information together, write the outline, write the draft, etc.
Do you plan to use YouTube as a platform to distribute your posts, for example, in video format?
We would like to. If anything, I would say it's just a resource
Mhm.
issue, if anything. So many hours in the day to put together video content as well. But we really would like to, and we're pushing for a lot more video in 2025. Although we're looking more into short form video as opposed to long form. So YouTube shorts and LinkedIn shorts.
So the next question is, are there any additional activities you would recommend for achieving these lead generation goals?
Yeah. So for lead generation, we have a few methods. So we have just signing up for the newsletter,
Mhm.
which will add as a call to action in a lot of different things. So amongst different blog posts, random social media posts, things like that. And then paid advertising, I really think is the best way to get good lead generation if you have the budget for it, because then we can, pay to get in front of more people, the right people, and then we're still using the same lead generation tools. So a link to the website, or we'll gate a guide that they have to give us their phone and their email in order to download the guide. That's a great tool. But I would say that we don't really tend to have different processes put
Mhm.
together for different segments necessarily, more so segments in terms of different industries rather than like smaller teams versus larger teams and so
Uh-huh.
on.
You mentioned that you put some small parts of your big posts in to the email. Did you change something for email campaign so it's like just small part from the post?
Yeah, it'll be, I will often tend to rewrite it. I'll either take a snippet from the blog just as is, but a lot of the times I'm usually putting together like more of a summary, or like trying to almost like condense the point of the blog into like one paragraph, enough so that whoever's reading that small paragraph knows what it's about. And then if they click the link, it's because they want all the details. Right, but they're still getting that valuable piece of information without having to click the link as well.
Do you have any process for discussing posts, content, or creative ideas with your team?
Yeah, definitely. I would say a little bit of both. A lot of the times it's just me, I just write it, I just post it. But if I ever am like, ooh, I'm not sure, maybe this is wrong, I don't know, because there's a lot of technical stuff that I don't know, I will definitely have someone look over it. And in terms of the messaging, over the past year, we were really able to lock down kind of our firm messaging, our brand identity, what we want to say. So we've kind of got that all like down on paper, which is very helpful because then you're able to just kind of go off and work without having to come back and be like, is this right? Is this to the brand? Like we already have those guidelines in place.
When we have, for example, students in our company for internship, for example, in marketing department, so it's like the same to tell stories about the video production processes to clients like brand managers or marketers who don't want to involve deeply in these video production details. And for example, the student will ask me what to read to understand this complex for him or her video industry. I'll tell, okay, here's the three books, for example, one for scripting, the second for filming, the third I don't know, for editing, for example. Yeah. Do you have any books or maybe portals, websites to read for junior marketer or who wants to work in your industry?
Yeah, definitely. There's a few places that I like for information and extra learning. One's called Exit 5, if you've heard of them, I'm not sure, but they're a B2B marketing community.
Mhm.
So they're on LinkedIn, of course, but then they also have their own platform where they'll host like weekly webinars. And then there's so much content in there, and it's a great community where people are able to talk to each other and just ask each
Uh-huh.
other like, what are you doing? What do you think about this? I was actually a few months ago just finished up an accelerator course through them. So that was a paid course, but they offer stuff like that. So I really like those guys, especially for B2B marketing. You can find some great content out there on Substack. I prefer Substack to Medium personally. That's just me. And there's great creators that I follow on LinkedIn, like Dave Gerhardt. And off the top of my head, I'm not sure, but
Uh-huh.
there's so much good content out there. I guess my advice would be to try and focus what you're trying to learn because there's so much out there. It can be easy to get overwhelmed.
What unusual or craziest prototypes has your team done?
One that comes to mind, like a mosquito sorter. So
Uh-huh.
some scientists are trying to work with mosquitoes and they need to be able to sort them, I think, based on male and female, but I'm not entirely sure. So
Wow.
we helped them build up like a little contraption with like a little conveyor belt that the mosquitoes would go on. Yeah. So there are all kinds of crazy things that come through the door here that you would never think of, would be a thing, you
So
know?
it's top one of craziest projects or top
I don't
second?
know if that's the
Okay.
top one. That's like the first one I thought of. I don't know. Maybe the craziest one, this was before I started, but they did some like a big, like football stadium size, like LED screen. They like put it together for a big company. I didn't get to see it, but I saw pictures of it and it was huge.
What is your marketing strategy for 2025?
So for this year, we are really focusing on paid ads. That's our biggest tactic, with the strategy really just being to increase reach and increase leads.
Mhm.
So we had a great year last year in terms of like picking up a few like big new clients, getting introduced in a few more spaces to a bigger audience.
Mhm.
Our LinkedIn following last year grew from like 300 or 400 to now we're at 1,300. Happy with that.
Yeah.
So we're really trying to capitalize on that growth that we saw last year by just really pushing the paid ads to really like capitalize on that momentum. So that's our biggest strategy going into this year.
Do you use any AI tools in your work?
Yeah, we do use a little bit of AI. We're not like a huge AI company or anything, but we do. I think almost everybody has like the pro chat GPT
Yeah.
paid. And then I personally prefer Claude to chat GPT.
It's very good
So
with texting, yeah.
yes, that's
Yeah.
exactly why. So I'll personally use Claude to help myself out in terms of like organizing admin type of things. Like it's great to help you parse through a transcript or to help you brainstorm, those sorts of things. So that's most of what I use it for. And then we'll use a little bit of AI tooling on the media side. So I use Canva, which has a few like AI tools in there of like, getting rid of the background is like a
Mhm.
huge time saver, for example, on a photo, stuff like that.
System shut down.
So, Megan, you've shared a lot of interesting information about segmentation, promotion, targeting. It's really valuable information for
Thank
our
you.
viewers. I'm truly inspired by your work and your projects. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. This was a lot of fun.